Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Good Journeys with Second Mountain, inspired people and inspiring stories. I'm your host, Ben Veal, founder of Second Mountain, meaningful comms for a brave new world. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter at Second, that's 2ND Mountain UK, on Instagram at Second Mountain Comms, and by searching for Second Mountain Comms on YouTube. Joining me today is my guest, Debi John of Play Healing. Debi is a play consultant, play pollinator, and the creator of the Pause, Play, Connect framework that inspires parents and carers to play with their children in a modern and memorable way. Debi is a passionate advocate of the transformative power of play in our daily lives as a mechanism for real social impact. Drawing from over 20 years of professional experience in safeguarding education and the creative arts, Debi prides herself in not prescribing exactly how to parent, rather, her stance is to reinforce the power of play in our incredibly busy lives. Debi is the host of the Play Healing Parenting podcast, provides regular advice on BBC Radio, and applies her own learnings daily by living with two teenagers of her very own. Debi, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you. Yes. Yeah, two teenagers still asleep this morning, so nice and quiet in the home right now. My job hasn't started yet.
Oh, wow, lucky you. Well, it's
so
great.
Different.
It's great to have you on the show, Debi. I really admire the work you do, and I've wanted to talk to you about it for some time. So I'm going to kick straight off with the big question, which is you describe yourself as a play pollinator. What exactly do you mean by that?
Well, my name means bee, so I have a real resonance with bees, and I was called a buzzy bee, rushing from one thing to another all the time. And I think most of us are rushing around like headless chickens most of the time. But the whole thing of pollination is spreading that idea, that whole thing of spreading. And if we don't have pollination in our world, we don't get half the food for a start. And so it's really, really important. And as I've grown over the last 20 years in my profession, I've started to really understand the power of play, not only just in my own life as an adult, that I can play more, but how play builds connection between me and my child, how play builds connection between the class I'm teaching, if I'm teaching, or the workforce that I'm training, how it impacts whole communities, and what happens if we don't stop. But if we stop playing, I mean, it's absolutely fundamental. It's a fundamental human right. So it's just a metaphor to say that my heart is to spread the message of that play is powerful and play is needed in our society today.
So what's the purpose of Play Healing then? What are you aiming to achieve as a business?
So really good. I mean, I'm trying to spread this message about, we can't play when we're stressed, and we are living in this really stressed out society. I mean, over 80% of the parents that I work with struggle to see the value of play, or just struggle to play, or just don't have time for it. And we can also use play as a verb. I'm playing football, or go out to play. Most of our parents are like, go and play. It's this kind of separate thing that kids do, or younger kids. But I'm wanting to raise the value of play. I'm wanting to help us to see that play is such a broad thing. Empower parents, permission to play your way, not just this is how you should bring up your kid. You need to play. You should be playing. We just feel like more guilty. You're like, I can't, I'm stressed. I've got financial pressures. I've got this, and I'm trying to juggle this. And, I'm not about that. I really don't. And so play healing is not telling parents what to do all the time and how you should speak to your kid and all that, or telling workforces exactly how they should bring play into the office. No, it's pause. Let's reflect. Let's look at where we're at right now. What's going on inside? What are the stresses? Then we can move forward effectively.
So how did you first come to establish Play Healing then? Like, what steps did you take on your journey to get to where you are now?
Well, the name for the business came quite early on. So I came through the education system as a teacher and a musician first, and then teaching secondary music all the way down to primary, with some community work in between as well, working in a massive range of schools. So from private schools to schools that only had 23% of the kids got A to C, 5A to C, and there was 35% sort of special needs. That's another secondary I worked in. And I was working with kids who were being gang raped, who were self-harming, you know, and I was like, my God, the mental health, you know, state of the mental health system is just getting more and more overloaded, and teachers are having to do the job of a pastoral worker and all these kind of things, as well as try and teach. You know, we need to change the system. So I went off and I thought, right, I'm going to be a play therapist, and trained and thought, for the rest of my life, I'm going to be working as a therapist. But as I studied trauma, attachment, and play, and I started working as a play therapist, it was like they were throwing children at me saying, can you just fix this child? Can you fix this child 1 hour a week? You know, they can work. And I had the most incredible moments with these children, and I saw progress. And yes, there is absolutely a place for one-to-one therapy. Children need that safe space. However, I was like, hang on a minute. During my 60 grand journey of training as a play therapist, I learned so much, so many things I wish I'd known when I was a parent of younger children and growing up. And I'm only now implementing it now. Like, what if I could give some of these simple ideas, simple transformative ideas to many, many parents? And because I got the gift of the gab, and I think it's probably because of my singing background, and I love speaking and singing in front of thousands of people. I'm not scared of microphones. I'm not scared to say it how it is. So it's just taking those, you know, skills that I'm still working on, and spreading the message of, you know, play is powerful, play heals communities if we let it. So that's how it was birthed. And then I went from sort of doing parenting programs to really distilling my message down. You know, niching is really important, right? Mm-hmm. People used to tell me to niche. So I was like, oh, I've got a niche. But naturally, things distilled down into these 3 words. You know, I found myself really lonely as a parent. I had 2 kids, I had a dog, I had a husband, and I would still be sitting there sometimes going, I feel really disconnected, I feel lonely. Mm-hmm. I was talking to my mum, and she's like, well, we're all built for connection, Deb. It was like this penny dropped. And then everything I saw was like, yeah, we need connection. We need this connection. It's inbuilt in all of us. How do we get there? Well, we get there through play and curiosity, and play builds connection. But if we don't feel playful, what do we need to do? Pause. And it's that self-reflection piece. You know, as a therapist, you go through a lot of personal training and looking at, you know, things that the blocks that get in the way of our work. And so it really distilled down into 3 simple words. So I trademarked those words: pause, play, connect. And now I frame everything around that. And the only problem with this I found is that I thought, yeah, I've got a really simple model, I've niched down, but now the application of this model is like just far reaching, because I found myself working with KPMG, all these big corporations, about, you know, this pause, play, connect flow. I found myself in Poland working with Ukrainian refugees, integrating this flow into their world and their situation, and everything in between, because play is this natural, innate thing in us. So it currently feels like I've had quadruplets, and I'm trying to manage, you know, even though I've got this simple flow and it's memorable, the application just seems to be far reaching and permeating so many areas at the moment.
Well, it's incredible. I mean, it shows what a universal concept it is, and in how inherent it is in all of us, regardless of where we are in the world or our circumstances.
Yeah.
I'm really interested to kind of explore your journey as a parent. So obviously you've talked about the training that you went on to get to this stage. But how has your own approach to parenting helped you to develop this model and pass on your learnings to others now?
Yeah, I think there's 2 main things that I've been good at and things that I've not been good at. The things I've struggled as a parent are this authoritative way that I was brought up and that I naturally will flip to, because we were brought up like, do this, do that, this is the right thing to do, this is the wrong thing to do, and it was like dictated to us how we should live. And then being the oldest of 6 children, I was very bossy. And then becoming a teacher, again, it's like you get taught to, you have to deliver this curriculum, and everyone needs to listen, and they need to sit still, and they need to do this. And early on, that was what it was like for me. And so coming away from that, my strapline is permission to play your way. It's this empowering movement where it's like, it doesn't have to be right, wrong. It's tougher when you start realizing that life is a bit gray, right? And there's never always the right thing to do, that there's a multitude of approaches that you can take. And that's a hard concept when you're younger to take on. But if we can get to that point where we allow others to express themselves as they feel safe to do so, and we allow children to grow and develop in ways that are aligned to them and that feel safe to them, creating these safe spaces for learning is just so powerful. And I think it's definitely the way we should be pushing towards. And so taking the fear out of parenting and leading with love and freedom. So yeah, I struggled with this, and I had to really, and I still have to learn about giving my children, that space to be themselves and not say, go and do this, bark commands at them. So that's one thing. One thing I did have this beautiful experience of, though, growing up, was in the area of creativity. And so my parents were musical. With all 6 of us, we were all playing different instruments. I was brought up in the church, which allowed for lots of playing with other people and playing instruments with other people, and improvising and just growing. And then I was in bands and being recording artist and all this kind of stuff. And play was my therapy. Playing music was my therapy. I would write lyrics and write music, because my parents didn't have loads and loads and loads of time for me, being in such a big family. So I had to find things that worked for me. So yeah, that was an area that I did understand about. If we create this safe environment, we can not just learn a skill, we can use that skill and create new things. So that's helped, because I'm very, very passionate about that message. How do we create a safe environment for growth? So yeah, they're the 2 things. And it's helped. As an example, my 2 girls have benefited from that kind of thing, because we were in a creative, they were brought up with a creative kind of environment. It meant that they could find their passions early on. And one of my girls has gone on to do a lot of acting and loves writing music herself. But it's not because I said, you should do this, you need to go there, I'm going to put you in this acting class. No, she found it for herself, and she saw something that inspired her, and then she went and did it. And that's what we want, isn't it? We want our kids to find something for themselves, not be told, do this, do that.
Absolutely. It's fighting that inherent urge that we have as parents to dictate. I fall into this so much. Do this, don't do this, don't do this. And you hear yourself and you think, I'm sounded like my parents. I know that our parents did this and thought I'm sounding like my parents. It's so hard to challenge that relationship. I mean, I'm curious. You mentioned kind of about your parents maybe not having that much time, and so you having to create your own entertainment when you were younger. I mean, in your opinion, do you think the latest generation of parents and caregivers are more
there's a micromanagement? Well, there's 2, yeah. So attunement is something we can definitely go on to, but there's also this micromanagement of activities. Like, you have to do 5 different activities with your children every week and put them in this club and that club, and there's so much structure, and they're bounced around from here, there and everywhere. Do they actually get time to pause themselves and breathe and think, what is this all about? What is life about? And what do I enjoy doing? Do I even enjoy going to this dance class or martial arts class, whatever? Yes, there's a point for that, and we need to learn discipline and all that kind of things. But yeah, we can there is so much pressure to be a certain way as a parent. When I was bringing up the girls, I didn't have YouTube to compare myself to and all these parenting experts. There were just a few books that I could choose from. One was this Gina Ford one, which tells you exactly when you should be putting your child to bed and how you should be setting the room out, and this many hours to feed and this many hours. And being a creative mum, I was like, I can't do this. This is like unnatural. It feels so regimented. Surely this isn't right. But then I didn't know an alternative. And then I found this lady called the Baby Whisperer, and she gave this structure called EASY. And it was 4 things. It was E for eat, A for activity, S for sleep, and then the Y was you time. And she said, put this flow into your baby's life. And it doesn't matter how long they sleep for, or what the activity is, but just try and do the flow of not feeding them to sleep, for example. Try and do some activity so that and make sure you have you time. So that worked for me. That was a flow I could integrate into my life. And there were literally 2 pages that I left unopened that talked about the types of cry and what they could mean. And I remember having this baby going wah, 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 and trying to work out what kind of cry. Does that mean they're hungry? Does that mean they're tired? Does that mean they've got wind? That's all I had. That is all I had. And then I had the community around me. So all the friends and family. That's how I learned. But now we get to compare ourselves to the top expert in this field, and conscious parenting and creative parenting and connected parenting and all these things. I'm not stating any of them, but God, it feels overwhelming. And it's like, oh, I should be doing this. I should be doing that. And I'm like, no more shoulds. Find a flow that works for you and just go with that, because comparison kills the joy. If we don't have the joy and play are very, very close together. So we need to kill comparison, which means we need to limit the amount of influences that we're looking at, and even our friends. We compare with play, for example. I can look at my friends playing with their kids and go, oh my gosh, they just have this beautiful connection, and they're like, it's fun to be with. I don't feel fun to be with today. And again, I just want to say to parents, you don't have to be a clown to be playful, and you don't have to play in this giggly, hyped up way. Actually, pausing to play can be, I'm going to pause and I'm just going to be present while you play your Lego and listen to you. Or I'm just going to sit there while you paint your picture and just observe what you're doing and just appreciate you for a moment. That is building connection. That's being present. I could go on.
There's so much that really resonates for me, Debbie, because there's so much to that, isn't there? Not only from the child's development, but also for our own mental health and well-being. I mean, I'm fundamentally aware when I am present with my sons versus being distracted. And especially during the last couple of years during the pandemic, I found that I've been more and more distracted, spent much more time on devices than I ever did before, feeling like my attention span is very limited.
Yeah.
And I'm acutely aware that actually it's those times when I switch off and just sit down and appreciate my boys, but we have the best time together. And it's frustrating, really, that despite having that knowledge, I still fall back into the looking at the black mirror.
Yeah, I literally need these myself. These are my pause tattoos to remind me to pause and be present with my kids, or pause and take that breath and tune into myself. I used to get panic attacks. My whole body would freeze up. I remember taking my kids to the park and walking up a hill, suddenly have a panic attack, and my whole body just froze. And then I start crying, going, what's happening to my body? And my kids are running ahead of me, and I can't engage because I had not realized that my breathing had become shallow, that my whole body was feeling under threat, until it was too late and the panic attack had started. So when I had the psychoeducation behind how a panic attack starts and what's going on in my body from an amazing life coach I was working with, and then I learned how to tune in more to my body, just take that moment. I haven't had any panic attacks since, because I learned how to tune into the sensations, be more connected, brain to body connection. it wasn't just one session. I've done a lot of work on this, but it's an example of the importance of pausing for our own mental health, and that then affects our ability to connect with our kids, our workforce, whatever.
So coming back to the word connection, then, what does true connection mean to you?
True connection to me is all about this word attunement, which again, I didn't know about until I studied play therapy and attachment. Attunement has got that beautiful, it's got tune in it, tuning in like a radio, the old radios where you'd have to tune into the station.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I use another sort of analogy of tuning a guitar, making it sound harmonious again. We want that harmony in our teams at work. We want that harmony in our family. And the only way, though, we can tune is when we're in a relaxed and responsive enough state so we can be that fully present adult and really see the child in front of us, or the whole class in front of us. So I believe that attunement is an essential part of building beautiful connection.
So I'm interested to get your take on the last couple of years. How do you think the lockdowns have changed parenting approaches? And also, as a society, do you think we're now more attuned to our children's needs than perhaps we were pre-pandemic?
Yeah, I found some beautiful examples when I've been coaching parents over the pandemic. I had a whole course going on right at the beginning where I had 12 different families I was working with all across the UK in very different situations, from single parent mothers who were trapped in a 1-bedroom flat to prosperous families. They were all in the same course, and it was an absolute privilege to see their journeys. And many of the fathers especially, I've seen a real shift in their understanding. They're taking more of an interest in the child development side of things. They are giving themselves more permission to parent and be part of their journey. It's just been incredible. And just having 1 or 2 sessions one-to-one, I've had some of the most exciting sessions I've had are with top businessmen who have felt like a fish out of water. They're used to just going away, coming back in, having about half an hour with the kids, having their dinner, and then they go to bed. They haven't had to really connect on those deeper levels. Then they're stuck at home. They see the stress and they see the conflict, and there's more arguments going on. And they're like, wait a minute, I used to be able to manage a team of 100 adults. I come home and I'm struggling with my toddler. They feel then disempowered. They feel like, there's something wrong with me. But that has brought them to do something about it. Some people, not everyone, have taken action and taken responsibility and gone, okay, I want to work on this. I want to work on this and I want to be a better dad. And there's something that's really stressing me out. What is it? And often it's this process of pausing, playing, and connection. How can I build connection again? But the other threat to connection is this disengagement, the distraction of so many things just pulling and vying for our attention. The obvious ones, we think about screens and all these kind of things. Screens are incredible for connection, like we're doing now, Zooms and all these kind of things. It's meant that people can keep connection on some level, but also screens are these kind of things that we can get absorbed into this virtual world for hours, and then suddenly realize, oh my gosh, I should be making the dinner right now, and I've been on LinkedIn or Instagram or so yeah, I don't know how it's been for you. How I think I saw an article that you wrote, I think there's something in the Guardian or something, you were writing about how the pandemic affected your parenting. I loved that article. Was that you?
Yeah, no, it was. Yeah, I mean, for me, the pandemic has completely flipped a switch, because pre-COVID, I was exactly as you described. I'd see my children for 30 minutes a day on weekdays, if I was lucky, if the trains allowed it around work. Really my role was to maybe get them breakfast if I had time, and maybe tuck them to bed and read them a story again if I got back in time. Then obviously lockdown happened, and suddenly you're there 24/7, which again, I don't think anyone would recommend. I don't think that was a fun time for anyone. But especially during that first lockdown, I'm talking the first kind of
Mm,
8 weeks when we were on,
yeah.
real house arrest,
Complete. Yeah.
you had to be creative. You had to think, well, we're in this situation. We are literally our own support bubble. Um, as adults, we were all terrified of the bigger kind of macro context of what was happening, but we didn't want that to filter down to our children. So the best we could do was try and normalize the situation by trying to put structure in place, but also trying to put play in place. And I think what happened over time is that I just found that I had not only more time, but also more desire to play with my children. I
Mm,
don't think I'd realized how much I had slipped into traditional gender norms in terms of just being the dad that um, maybe tells them what to do, uh, has a bit of fun with them, but it's very structured, clear fun. And then at the weekends, I would put a lot of pressure on myself, a lot of emotional pressure on myself to be this brilliant dad to try and make up for the 5 days
mhm.
that I'd missed. What I found is that pressure has completely gone over the last 2 years. I just know that the fact that I'm present and involved and interested in their lives is actually enough. The one area that I'm really working on and that I'll be taking away from this recording today is to be present, because I know that is definitely my weak area right now. That is the bit that my children need more from me from, is just not necessarily play all the time, but just that present connection and just being with them and being around them.
Yeah, I love that. So true. I'm excited
So
to hear about that journey.
yeah, no, exactly, and I think it's really encouraging what you're doing. I think, but as you say, we are heading into times that are could possibly even be tougher than the pandemic. There's going to be great, emotional, financial pressures placed on so many families, and there's never been more of a time probably to just pause, stop, look around us, practice gratitude, and just connect with our children, because we cannot affect the wider world,
Yeah.
and maybe it is the time to switch off a bit from everything else that's going on and just be present with our children. I'm really interested in um, the benefits of pausing and playing and connecting. Particularly, what are some of the positive impacts you've seen on the lives of people that you've worked with?
Ah, what story shall I tell today? Well, I sometimes talk about micro moments of connection, micro moments to pause, micro moments to play, because I don't want to sort of burden parents right now on, this big activity you need to be doing with your child. And when I was in Poland working with, you've seen the pictures of all the beds lined up in these centres. They're just sort of temporary accommodation that they've sort of thrown together. And you had family after family, just one bed each, maybe with their pet and a few belongings. So I came in with my little feather project with some feathers, and I offered them a feather. And then I would just teach them 3 or 4 games just to play with one feather, that they could play with each other. And it was mind blowing. These are families that have had normal lives, that have been professional doctors and, working in offices and teaching people. And then suddenly they're just thrown into this abandoned warehouse, and they're waiting to know when to move on to somewhere in Spain or somewhere in Germany, or maybe go home. And so they were offered this feather, which gave them choice. They could choose a color. So it empowered them. It made them feel like they had choice. So they chose a color that resonated with them. And offering them a gift, just offering them some time and something, I think resonated, because literally 100% of the people took one. I never had anyone go, oh, I don't want that. They all took a feather. And then we played, games, and I showed them how to pause and prepare for the play. And I couldn't speak Ukrainian, but just by modeling these things, blowing a feather to the child and the child blow it back. And then I was like, look at the connection this brings. And they would look at each other, then they'd start to smile, and then they'd start to laugh. And then they would play the next game, dropping a feather, and they'd start standing up, and they'd start moving around, and they'd go from, lying down on their beds bored, to sitting up, smiling, maybe standing and laughing. And that shift, just seeing that physical shift in them, was just beautiful to watch. But then it didn't just stop there, just from this little one feather. they then made their own games up or continued the play when I went on to the next family and the next family, or a group of kids were running around with their feathers, like creating this feather gang. And there was a lady who just asked for this big feather because she saw I had a few big ones. She said, oh, please, can I have one for my baby? And I gave her this big feather, and she started to dance around just in the middle of this, warehouse with this feather. And I then joined her and connected with her, and we danced together. And then she just gave me this lovely hug, and we had that connection. And I don't know, if that's going to, it's just these micro moments that fill your heart up, and you just see how just a little bit of play and connection can just really revive the soul. And yes, and then I have stories about, busy working parents just tweaking one or two things. For example, bath time. It can either be the thing I need to get done. I need to wash that child's hair, and I just got to do it. Or this is an opportunity for connection, and this is an opportunity to play, because I'm going to pause and I'm going to play now. And it can actually be a really therapeutic, fun thing, or it can be a chore. And just shifting that mindset is incredible, and it just builds connection. The kid feels safer, you're happier, you feel more empowered as a parent. Job done. It's about that 1 degree, changing the direction just in 1 degree. You're this mountain analogy. If you go off 1 degree, you're going to end up in a completely different area. So that's what I want for families. I'm not here to try and do a whole 360 or 180 change. Even if they change by 1 degree, job done.
Brilliant. I think mindset shifting is a brilliant suggestion. Are there any other simple tips that you can give to parents or caregivers just to develop a bit more of a playful relationship with their children?
Yeah, I think first of all, it's throwing off preconceived ideas and all the shame and guilt and stress right now. Self-care is so important. And everyone says, if we don't look after ourselves, we can't look after others. It's never going to change. That is so true. So pausing, taking those breaths, practicing gratitude, those kinds of things before entering into an activity or asking them to do something or whatever makes the world of difference. And I want to be more general today, just about, think about the age of your kids, what they love, your situation. How can you create that environment, that feeling of safety, them to feel heard and seen and soothed? What are they doing right now? What do they love doing? And I've written an article recently about how we can engage with our children through gaming and esports. Our children might be a bit older, but I'm still thinking, how can I connect with my girls today? What can I do that they'll enjoy? Whether that's taking a selfie together or just connecting over some job, or just going into their room and just sitting on the bed and listening to the music they're listening to. That's all I can do. There are days where I have not got a big capacity for connection or play. It might be lying on the sofa with them and maybe putting my hand on them or something, or just laughing together at some kind of comedy. That's all I can manage that day. I am not this weird phenomenon of person that is constantly playful and loves their children all the time, and it's incredible. I really am just human, and I have easy days and harder days, and it's just how can we go with the flow here, and just in general, how can we build connection? What does that mean?
Yeah, you said it in one, go with the flow. None of us are perfect. We're all trying to do the best job we can as parents. Some days you're racked with incredible guilt at the end of the day for missed opportunities, for moments. But life's busy. We're trying to do many, many things. Many of us are juggling businesses on top of juggling children. You can just do the best you can. But I think the advice you shared today and the perspective you brought is hugely valuable. And it's been, just really inspiring to speak with you today about this, Debbie. And I love your approach, and I love what you're doing. So I'm sure your words today will have resonated with many. How can our audience keep up to date with Play Healing and get in touch with you after the show today?
Well, there's a few things, I guess. If they've really enjoyed the material and want to remind themselves to pause, then by going to the shop and buying these pause tattoos, that will actually support the work I'm doing with the Ukrainian families over in Europe. We are a community interest company. So yeah, follow the stuff, share the stuff with families that you know, or business leaders. And if they want me to come and speak or share the message with them, I'd be really happy to. But yeah, I just hope that something's resonated and people can just shed this parent guilt and remember that comparison kills the joy. And we need to hold on to at least some moments of joy in such a stressful situation as we find ourselves right now. Is it called the great resignation?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I saw an article about the great exhaustion, and I'm like, yes, we are definitely in the great exhaustion. And we mustn't throw out the idea that play has to be present when we're feeling energized. Play, like you say, if you're present and you can just be with your children, you're giving them a gift.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Debi, you've been a brilliant guest today. Do follow Debi by going to playhealing.com. All of the links to Debi's shop with her brilliant paws tattoos and her socials are on there. And do also listen to the Play Healing Parenting podcast. So that's it. That is episode 2 of Good Journeys with Second Mountain. It's been, again, really inspiring stories from yet another inspiring person. If you want to keep in touch with us, you can join the conversation at #GoodJourneysPod. You can find the full video of this recording today on our YouTube channel, Second Mountain Comms. And that's it. Let's keep climbing on together.
Thank you.